guys, welcome to Shiloh's Diary. I'm back again with another video. Today I'll be doing a first impressions video on the series Abandoned Empress. Honestly, this series, well, I was kind of scared to do this video. Not scared, because I've got this request before, not on YouTube, but on TikTok, on what video to do. So on Abandoned Empress. And I have, if anyone follows me on TikTok, follow me. Kimberly Cups. I had to change my TikTok handle because it wasn't going through. But I don't have a positive opinion on Abandoned Empress at all. It's not my favorite series out of the genre, and I'm going to explain to you why. Abandoned Empress is a romance series, and it starts off really strong. Not to mention, it has really good art. Insert some art. It's pretty solid art. It's not my favorite art style. I'm more of a the villainess is a marionette or protecting the female lead's brother type of girl when it comes to art style. But it's a pretty solid series with the character designs and just the art in general. The main problem that this series has to deal with is their male lead, Ruve. The reason why, I'm a type person, if I personally don't like the male lead or the love interest specifically in a romance series, I will drop it. I think that there's nothing wrong with that. And it was pretty obvious that I didn't like Ruve in the slightest, because Ruve / the prince, however you want to call him, he is, when it comes to like colors, my favorite type of male lead. I adore male leads with blue hair and blue eyes. But it really didn't, it wasn't the serve, it wasn't a serve at all. If any, like I adore them. Like, that's why I'm, like, one of my favorite male leads is Chaeyoung from Inso's Law. And he's legit the reason why I dropped that series. I adore male leads that look like that. But the author, as I said on TikTok, the author spent so much time on other male leads and on Tia alone, to the point where we got to Ruve, he was so uninteresting. There was nothing to be desired. We already have the backstory. Well, when we start the series, we start off with her life is terrible. Tia is basically, she's number 2 in her own marriage. The miscarriage, her father dying, him smiling. I believe he smiled. I'll correct myself if he didn't. I believe he smiled as she got her head chopped off, or after she, because she tried to kill him. And after all that, we come back in the series, and we're developing Tia. We're developing her relationships with other characters. So, for example, like her father. We're developing relationships with Alan and with Karsine. And if anybody knows, Karsine is best boy. We're developing all of this. And yes, we do get scenes with Ruve. But Ruve, they're highly shallow and generic scenes. They're just like, oh, why is she so scared of me? Why is she shaking so much? She's super mature for her age. They're very face value scenes for all the dramaticism that's coming in the first chapters. It's just like, okay. And of course, we get her times where she has panic attacks, and we can understand and sympathize in the beginning specifically why she is kind of like not feeling his presence because of the past. But for example, it reminds me of the series. I used to watch the series called Scam France, and this is a complaint that they had. There was a love interest, and his name was Elliot. He's really hot, and I recommend people to watch it, at least season 3. But people were complaining at the time that how could we, because it was a remake, so we already knew what scenes were going to come up, and people were complaining like, oh, how can we want these characters to get together if we don't see him enough? Okay? And which was true, but that criticism was able to be wiped away, because when they actually came together and they started to interact, the scenes were great. So nobody really cared for the lack of scenes that happened prior. This does not happen with Ruve. Ruve scenes were completely shallow. And then her scenes with the secondary lead and her tertiary lead were way more interesting, more fun, and they had a way closer relationship. It kind of also reminds me of another series that I also read is Lady Baby. Lady Baby did this right. In Lady Baby, they introduced, I would say about 3 guys before the prince. They introduced the male lead. It took a while for them to for them to introduce the male lead, because mind you, these are weekly series. It took about 50 chapters. I'll tell you the exact round chapters when I edit this, for them to introduce the male lead, which is almost a year. That's almost a year. 50 chapters is almost a year of content. And we had three leads, male leads. If you want to include Harrison, adore him. And so when the male lead came, it was kind of like, who are you? I did come to like him. Why? Because they actually had good scenes together. Most people's complaints when it comes to the series is that how could she fall in love with someone who did this to her? You know, if the writing was that good, someone had made this argument, we were talking about it and discussing about this. I have seen series like this, and I'm saying that, first of all, audience members will let characters get away with legit anything if they're hot / charming. Rue is not charming, to be honest. I find him to be quite, compared to his counterparts, his other male leads, the male leads in this series, he's very boring and kind of lackluster and incredibly generic, and he kind of, I don't know, he just blends in the background with so many other male leads in this genre, and he doesn't stand out in the slightest. And he's not really that interesting or likable. So that was like really his problem. And I was kind of just like, if the author had spent time from the beginning, after actually giving them heartbreaking scenes, and not going the incredibly generic and boring route of her being scared of him. Where was Tia? Where was the Tia that tried to stab him? Where was the Tia that tried to kill him? Or how they kind of play off her having a miscarriage. Like, it's just like, this is an example of a series that they kind of trap you with this highly generic, like dramatic scenes and imagery, but they don't have the balls to actually enact that. If you've seen the end, I've seen the ending. I dropped this series pretty, like, not early. I dropped it after like maybe midpoint, like around the time that most people dropped the series, when everybody was like, I thought that she was she's trying to get away with him. Why is she trying to like marry him? Like, what? I mean, why is she falling in love with him? This doesn't make any sense. I agree. And then he had like car scene, like sacrificing himself, from what I heard, over her, and it's just like, no. It's bland, boring. That's how I feel about it. That is my true like first impressions of this series. It's not even my first impression. My first impression, it was just like, it's okay. My last impression, honestly, was just kind of like, I feel like there's a lot of alternative series that are way better when it comes to the genre. If you're looking for something that's this is a cookie cutter series. It reminds me of I'm gonna tell you what else, some series that this reminds me of and has the same problems. There's another series I complain a lot, not on this channel but on my TikTok. There's this series that it starts off amazing, just like Abandoned Empress. It starts off pretty great. When you are, this is one of those series that you get immersed by what it could be based on the past events, but not about the current events. You are just kept there based on the past. And I believe it's called I Was the Real One. And it starts off extremely intense, and you're like, oh my god. And then it turns into this weird kind of like pseudo like slice of life plot, and you're just kind of like, this is not what I was expecting. Honestly, if you want to read something that's like cookie cutter. I recommend like reading something like Dr. Elise, or something with a little dash of plot. Reading something like Sick a Wolf. Or if you were looking for something with a little more edge, like you thought she was gonna throw Rue in the garbage, you're better off reading something like Shadow Queen, or The Villainess, or like Revenge, The Villainess Lives Twice, or maybe even, as I said, Protecting, if I said this wrong, I'll definitely correct myself, but Protecting the Female Lead's Brother. Those are like better recs than this series. Or honestly, if you want something that's highly popular, that everyone adores, it's probably better off to read like Suddenly I Became the Princess One Day. But this series is a F. I'm sorry. This is like my first negative video, so like don't cancel me. But like that's honestly how I feel. So yeah, I think this is about it for this video, because there's nothing much to talk about. Like I could talk about like June. That's boring too. I just don't care. But see you in the next video, guys. Thank you for watching. My next video will probably be on Lore Olympus. But I have to read it first. As I said, if you have any more recommendations for me, things to talk about, comment, request. I'm always happy to check out, and I read a lot, so most likely anything you recommend me, I've probably read it before or heard of it. So yeah, see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Won't you say why you're a stranger now? Your eyes escaping mine when I sit you down. Don't you feel like we're holding on onto a fairy tale, but the magic's gone?